Hi everyone, I'm Janet, 39 years old, from America. Today, let me tell you the story of my marriage that only brings humiliation to me so that you can learn from my experience. I got married to my husband when we were both 32 years old. Up to now, our marriage has lasted for 7 years. My husband's name is James. He was a dentist and I was a manager at an import-export company. James and I had known each other since university. We fell in love with each other for many years before deciding to get married, so we understood each other very well. Well, maybe we know each other so well that there's nothing new in our love life anymore. That might be why we're in a situation like today. My husband James is gentle and quiet. He rarely hangs out with friends after work, but often goes home to take care of our family with me. We got married quite late, so right after the wedding we both agreed to try to have a baby. At that time of early marriage, because of the attempt to have a baby, we couldn't enjoy the romances as other couples. Sex for us gradually turned into somewhat a responsibility instead of excitement, as when we just fell in love. But from the outside, our marriage is admired by many people because my husband is excellent. He earns a lot of money and still treasures his family. I did not want to be considered a gold digger or dependent on my husband, so almost 2 years after getting married, when I finally got pregnant with our first child, I still tried to work until the last 2 months of pregnancy. Of course, due to overexertion, I was also more frustrated and irritated when returning home every day. Seeing James sighing and leaving for his room every time I complained about housework only made me more uncomfortable because he seemed to give up, not daring to face the problems of our marriage. But I still told myself that everything would be back to normal after I had the baby. Our son was born when we were 34 years old. James's career was well on the rise. He became busier because he expanded the branches of his dental clinics, so he often came home late. However, he still had a lot of affection for me and loved his newborn son. I was completely confident and happy with our marriage, and had no doubt, even though at that time James started to have some abnormal expressions. For example, once I caught him staring at the photo of a very pretty girl on his laptop for a long time. When I asked, he could not hide his smile and said that it was Jessica, a famous dental student on social networks. He and the clinic's marketing team were contacting to hire her as a model for their advertising campaign. I was jealous, so I shouted at him that he should let the staff do it, and he's the boss of the clinic. Why he should care too much. After that, I urged him to change our baby's diapers and make formula milk for him as well, to which my husband just sighed. A little bit about that Jessica. At that time, she was a final year student, young, beautiful, and sexy. My husband's clinic hired her as a model to advertise for their soon open branch. Because of my insecurity from the start, on the grand opening day, I took my 2-year-old son to meet the medical hot girl and introduced James as my husband. Jessica smiled and congratulated my family on our happiness. She cheerfully shared that after graduating, she planned to apply for an internship at my husband's clinic. Jessica said she enjoyed the working environment there and wanted to stay there for a long time. Those words with her innocent smile seemed like a challenge to me. When Jessica looked at my husband with admiring eyes, I was forced to say, "Listen closely, young lady. My husband is a married man. The relationship between you and him should not go beyond the limit of work. Don't think that because you have beauty that you can have anything you want. I don't work here doesn't mean that my words don't have an impact on James. You better stop dreaming." In response to my threat, Jessica laughed and opened her phone to show me the photo of the gift that her lover had just brought her. She said that I had misunderstood everything. She already had a rich man who loved her. Moreover, James was never her type of man. Listening to that, although I did not feel comfortable, I was less alert. Besides, around that time my husband often bought gifts for me and took our families to travel together, which made me feel happy and lowered my guard. Now that I think about it, it's unbelievable that my stupidity had been for 5 years. After Jessica started working in my husband's clinic for 2 years, every time I showed up at parties hosted by James's company, I would hear some teasing back and forth from the staff about his relationship with Jessica. But James just blushed and bluntly dismissed it. He was stern when correcting the staff that they should respect my presence and be quiet. Then he even hugged me and my son to express his love for us. Jessica also smiled and applauded happily to my husband's actions. At that point, I still had a strong belief in my marriage, so I only questioned James when we were alone. Of course, he just laughed and said that the employees were just messing around. It was not until a year ago that rumors from people started surrounding me. Realizing the apprehensive eyes of everyone at the clinic for me every time I showed up, I knew I'd been fooling myself the whole time. I silently followed James's schedule, but I saw no signs of anything unusual. He always got out of the house and came home on time. He was also always happy with me and our child. I started rummaging through James's laptop and phone whenever he wasn't looking to find a conversation history between the two of them, but there was absolutely nothing. However, the fact that he kept the messages with everyone at the clinic except Jessica was the clearest expression of the wrongful relationship between the two of them. Jessica had long blocked me on all social networks, and I didn't notice. After a month of doubt, the truth was finally revealed when I paid money to have someone spy on my husband. It turned out that for many years my husband had bought a luxury apartment for Jessica and lived with her there as husband and wife. Upon hearing the news from the detective, I was so angry that I almost fainted. I went with him to see with my own eyes. My husband helped Jessica walk from their car into the expensive apartment building and wait for the elevator. When I moved to take a better view of the two of them, I was taken aback when seeing her pregnant belly. The whole world collapsed in front of me. On my way home, I was determined to avenge this deception. I had many crazy plans in mind, but when I got home and was welcomed by the dazed eyes of my little son, I lost all my courage. I wouldn't allow myself to do anything that would cost my son having to face problems of divorced parents. I could not take away my son's innocent smile, but retaliation is unavoidable. 2 days later, after thinking about it carefully, I went to that apartment to meet Jessica alone, without talking with my husband. Seeing me, she slightly panicked, but immediately put back on her fake, happy face. We went to a cafe together to talk it through. Upon hearing my accusations of her nefarious relationship with James, Jessica still acted innocently, saying that I overestimated my husband because she didn't have any feelings for James. That was when I threw the photos of them taken the day before on the table for her to admit. However, after a moment of silence, Jessica showed all her cunning and shamelessness. She smirked and told me that over the years, it was me who was the third person to intervene in the relationship between James and her, that James had lost all his love for me and was only trying to fulfill his responsibilities. When the baby in her belly is born, my son and I would no longer have a place in James's heart, and that was the last push for me to retaliate against Jessica. Returning from that meeting with Jessica, I immediately hired an anonymous Photoshop specialist online, paid him a large sum of money to turn a bikini image of Jessica into a nude picture in a sexy pose, and posted on social networks. Of course, I also did not forget to include the accusations of her shamelessness when stealing others' husbands. As I expected, right after the picture appeared on social media, thousands of people showed interest and expressed indignation. They laughed at Jessica because she had been known for her beauty and good public image. Many people were sarcastic about why an educated and beautiful girl like Jessica chose to become the homewrecker. I sat in front of the screen, read and pressed like on every comment made by everyone, and was extremely satisfied. But when I was in a gloating mood for revenge on my husband's affair, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see 2 police inspectors standing there. They showed me accusations and arrest warrants for assaulting and disclosing sex pictures of other people without permission. I was escorted in front of the bewilderment of my poor son, really repulsive and humiliating. In front of the local court, I was charged with infringing upon the honor of others. This act of mine was considered to greatly affect the lives of Jessica and James. I almost went crazy to see when I was accused of that. My betrayed husband was not present because he was busy bringing his mistress to the hospital to give birth. Please tell me what to do now, guys. My punishment will only be reduced if the victim voiced forgiveness. I can't think it through anymore. I was the true victim in this story, right? Help me.